Okay, before we start, I would like to inform that this session will be recorded, so we hope that's all right with you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon from Jakarta, and welcome officially to our first module training as a part of navigating EU supply chain laws training program. And our specific topic for today, or for this module one, is putting human rights due diligence into practice. And this training series consists of 3 modules and are funded by the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. It is implemented by the ministry's partners in Transformation, Business and Development Network and Federation of German Wholesale Foreign Trade and Services, or BGA, in cooperation with SCOPI. Firstly, let me introduce myself. My name is Tia from SCOPI, and I will be your master of ceremony for today. I hope everyone joining us from the different parts of the world will find today's discussion clear, engaging, and valuable. So, before we officially begin, I would like to kindly remind you a few things. The first is please make sure that your name on Zoom is written correctly. Please write name with your organization. And if possible, kindly turn on your camera and use the virtual background that we have sent to you. And we will be sharing the participant list in the chat box during the session. Kindly fill it in to confirm your attendance. And last, the recording and the presentation materials will be shared with you after you complete the feedback survey at the end of the session. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, to kick off today's session, I am pleased to invite Bade as the Executive Director of SCOPI to deliver the opening remarks. Please, Bade, time is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Tia, as our MC today. Thank you for the opportunity. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning for some of us who are based in Germany. Distinguished speaker, participants, and partners. On behalf of SCOPI, Sustainable Coffee Platform of Indonesia, it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you on this training series, Navigating EU Supply Chains Module 1. Today mark an important step in supporting most of you, the exporters across Asia, as we respond to the growing importance of human rights due diligence in global trade. The implementation of environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, is becoming an increasingly relevant aspect in business relationship across global supply chains. Many European companies, including German companies, facing legal obligation from the EU regulations, whether it is EUDR, the EU Deforestation Regulation, or CS3D, the Corporate Sustainable Due Diligence Directive. These two regulations requiring the implementation of human rights and environmental due diligence process, and collaborating with companies in the supply chains on those two related topics. In many cases, buyers consider the implementation of EU's ESG requirements to be an important prerequisite to the continuation of business relationship. These obligations are affected not only to the EU companies, but also to the exporters from other countries, including Asia. Suppliers or exporters from Asia need to comply and meet with this regulation in order to keep this business in EU market. So today, in this training program, Navigating EU Supply Chain Laws, it is a comprehensive 3-part series designed to support exporters from Asia, which is some of you are here, and to help you prepare with the transition and the implementation of this EU regulation. This training is designed to empower you with the practical knowledge needed to meet EU requirements, particularly when it comes to respecting human rights throughout the supply chains. Whether you are working in agriculture, coffee, cacao, tea, food, or beyond, Your participation today shows commitment to build a fairer and more sustainable business ecosystem. And this program developed to build capacity, foster collaboration, and also turn regulatory challenges into competitive advantages. Especially that most of us are working very closely with the smallholders farmers. So it is very encouraging that you participate this program. And this program aims to help you also implement an effective ESG management system in preparation for growing buyer expectation and to position yourself as the supplier of choice. Before we start the program, we would like to thank the German Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, or BMZ, Partners in Transformation Business and Development Network, the Federation of German Wholesale, Foreign Trade and Services, or BGA, for their trust to SCOPI in co-hosting this program. Thank you for that. And also thank you to our two speakers, Dr. Jana Heinze and David Pyka. We are honored to have you here, two highly experienced speakers whose insights will guide us through this evolving landscape. And also thank you for the participant of this program. I see we have not only participants from Indonesia, but also we have from Vietnam, from Sri Lanka, our neighborhood countries. So it's good that we have different participants in different countries. And also, I would like to thank my colleague from Global Coffee Platform Vietnam, Trung Pham Quang, who helped SCOPI in sharing and spreading the information on this program to their members in Vietnam. Thank you all for being here, participating in the program. We hope this session will not only inform, but inspire meaningful action in your respective field. We would like to invite you to have active participation and engagement in this program. And we hope that not only this training that you are participating, but also continuing and participating the module 2 and 3, because it will enrich your knowledge based from the theory to the practical. So we wish you have a good and meaningful learning and faithful discussion today. So let us begin with important journey together. Thank you. I'll bring the mic back to you, Tia.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Ade, for the remarks. And yeah, to get us started and better understand who is in the room today, we will begin with a short audience polling. So you will see the polling appear on your Zoom screen shortly. Yeah, there are 5 questions that you need to fill to answer. Please kindly click the answer. Okay, we're still waiting the participants to fill the polling. So if you haven't done it yet, please kindly submit your response. We really appreciate it.
lima detik. Ya, empol ya.
Ya.
62% yang isi.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your response, everyone. I would like to read about the answer, the overview. So the primary role in the company mostly answer the owner or leadership. It's 27%. And about the company's primary sector, mostly, of course, coffee. As we expect, coffee is the most answer. And the third question, the size of the company is mostly small enterprise with about 42%. And about the familiarity about concept of human rights due diligence, mostly answer somewhat familiar. I have heard about it but have not started. And about the last question, what is the main motivation to joining this training? Mostly the audience answer to gain general knowledge on the topic with 36%. Okay, maybe we will Okay, that's a brief snapshot of our audience today, and we hope this will give the speakers a helpful backgrounds or context about the audience. So, okay, before we begin to module 1, we would like to give you a brief overview of what's coming next in this training series. As you know, this program consists of 3 modules, and we're excited to share what you can expect from the upcoming session. To introduce module 1, to introduce the module 2, I would like to invite Ms. Nawal to give us the information. So please, Ms. Nawal, the time is yours.
Thank you and good afternoon to Asia from Sequa in Bonn in Germany. I'm very excited to be here to kick off with you our training program for exporters from Asia on navigating EU supply chain laws. So this training consists of different sessions. So we are here today for the first session, the introductory session. But I really hope to also see some of you during our next sessions. So the sessions build up on each other. So that's why we recommend to attend all the sessions after each other. So after the session today, we will have what we call Module 2. Module 2 is the in-depth training with individual coaching. So there will be 3 group sessions accompanied by individual coaching sessions. So the first group session is going to be on the 16th of September, the second group session on the 22nd of September, and the third group session on the 29th of September. So there is some time left until then. And we also have an info session. The info session is going to be in 1 month, so so you have to register within the next month, and we have our info session, which is on the 14th of August. And there you will also get some overview on the structure and expectations you could have to sign up for module 1. Module 2. So there is, unlike for this introductory session, there's going to be a fee if you want to register. We are going to send you the link and the information regarding the dates of the upcoming group sessions in the chat, I would assume, so that you can decide whether you want to join this more in-depth follow-up training after this session today. And if you are interested, we highly encourage you to register, yeah,
I'm
as soon as
sorry, Miss
possible.
Nawal. I'm sorry. Maybe you can share screen so we can understand what you explained. Please, thank you.
Yeah, I tried before, but it was not possible, so I'll try again. Do you see it now?
Yeah, we can see it now. Thank you.
All right, so here you can see the dates, but we are going to send you the flyer as well. The dates for the 3 group sessions for the in-depth training, accompanied by individual one-on-one coaching sessions and assignments. It's quite an intensive training module with a lot of self-learning and individual coaching sessions. So you should be aware of the time investment you would have to commit. And also, if you are still thinking about it, we recommend you to join the info session before registration. So that was it from my side regarding the next group sessions as a continuation of today's training.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Nawal, for the information. Now, to continue with a quick introduction to Module 3, I would like to invite Budika to provide an overview of Module 3. So please, Budika, time is yours.
Oh, nggak mau. Dika seems he's not in the room now, so maybe I can cover for Dika introducing on Module 3. But now, if you would like to add some more what I give, please feel free to add the information. So on Module 3, it will be interactive roundtable session. So after you taking the module 1 and module 2, where you gain most of the information that you receive today, and later on the module 2 on theoretical part of the human right due diligence, we invite you to take this module 3. This will be an in-person roundtable program where it serves as a capstone of series moving from theory to practice. And it is not a typical seminar session, but highly interactive session, peer assist, and case clinic. So it will be like a workshop where participants are the expert, sharing practical experiences and co-creating solutions during the roundtable session. So the session will be co-facilitated by SCOPI team and also GIZ consultants with insights from the EUDR Helpdesk. We will conduct this session, Module 3, in two locations, Jakarta and Medan, North Sumatra, in October 2025. And you can choose either in Jakarta or in Medan to participate this Module 3. Now, what do you want to add more information on the Module 3, please?
No, I think
Budika has
Yeah.
also joined with us again.
Oh, she's back. Okay.
Yes. Maybe, yeah. Thank you, Mbak Ade. for the introduction to Module 3. Maybe Budika, if you want to add some information about the Module 3, please.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mbak Tia. Sorry, Mbak Tia, Mbak Adi. I got a problem with my electricity in my office. So I would like to share a bit about the, if it's okay. Oh, I cannot share. May I get the, yeah, just a moment. Hmm, ah, Okay, is it clear? Is it already shared?
Yeah, we can see it,
Okay,
Budika.
okay, yeah, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to inform a bit about the section or module 3 that actually already explained well
Budika, I'm
by,
sorry, but the screen is not full screen.
it's already full screen at mine. Just a moment. Maybe my, okay, is it now?
Still processing. Nah,
Yeah,
okay, it's already full screen. Thank you,
yeah,
Budika.
okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, I would like to give some more information, which is actually already well explained by Mbak Ade, more about the module 3. Yeah, so we have the module 1 today, and then we will have the module 2, which is follow up in-depth training and with coaching that already explained by Nawal. And then in module 3, we will have a session which is offline. Yeah, so the module 1 and module 2 is online, but the module 3 will be offline. So we will meet each other and we can get networking session together and sharing session together. So if in the module 1, there's some topics that we can get today, and then module 2, it will be a training with coaching that already Nawal explained. And then in module 3, we will have kind of from your experience in the module 2, because in module 2 you will get training and also coach, and then you can have time to try to implement that session or that coaching or that information into your company. And in module 3 we will exchange the experience, so it will be kind of a peer assist and case clinic in the module 3. What is the objective actually? You would like to have to facilitate peer-to-peer learning, so we can learn from others, and we would like to identify what is the challenge and the strategies that need to be developed to facing the problem that we find in the field. And then we will also like to build a collaborative exporter network and gather the regional insight, because we will hear from some people that already working maybe in Sumatra or Kalimantan or even other area. And then why is it important? Because we will bring the information or the knowledge that we can get from the module 2 into the local realities. What is the problem that we really face if we are working in the field? And then based on that, we can also influence the future sport program that might be needed by the other SMEs. Because it's not only us, yeah, it's not only me or it's only you who has the problem, but I think even not only Indonesia, yeah, also other countries have a problem like this. And based on our discussion in the module 3, we can then having some insight that can influence future support program. Through that activity, we also hope that we can build a strategic network between peers, between companies, and between participants at that module 3. And also, because we are working together, discussing together, then we can amplify our voice regarding this, what is really matter and what is really necessary for the company to run this activity. And what will you will contribute, you can share, the participant, you can share your ESG journey, environment, social, and governance journey, because you already implement what you got in module 2 in module 3. And then we can highlight, you can highlight the sector specific challenge because we will hear from you as the player, as the actor in the field, what is actually the challenge that you face while you implement all the information or in the knowledge that you've got. And because we also, you can also give the feedback on module 1 and module 2 that you already have, that you already received based on the training that you get already. And then we can engage in open dialogue about it. And what you will gain from that, you will get also the regional visibility and recognition because you are there, you explain your journey and you explain your experience, and that because of that, then people will know, you will aware that you already kind of going that experience. And then you can exchange the perspective, you get insight from peers and experts that at the time maybe joining the module 3. And then you also have the opportunities for networking and future collaboration because we are in the same page, we are in the same problem, we are in the same boat. So by working together, hopefully we can increase what we want to achieve. And then we can enhance the ESG positioning because you already kind of having the information, doing the work, and then you get the result. Yeah. And I believe that if you inform this to your potential buyer or to your buyer, you will get appreciation for that. Yeah. And then we can reinforce learning from modules 1 and 2 with fun follow-ups, of course. And this is the information about the activity itself. It will be conducted in 18th of October 2025, and it will be conducted along with the Trade Expo Indonesia, which will be located in the ISBSD, and it will be in between 10 to 3 p.m. Indonesia Jakarta time, and it will be conducted as an interactive roundtable. And as Mbak Ade said, it will be placed in Jakarta in 18th of October, but in Medan it will be informed later. So you will get meals, you get materials, and you will get the e-certificate. But the module 3 can be participated by the participant who already joined the module 2, because we want the participant do the exercise, do the work, try to implement the knowledge that they got from the module 2. Then they can share the experience in the module 3. So module 3 will be a sharing experience, and it will be a kind of exclusive peer assist and case clinic. I think that's it. That's it. What can I say? So module 3 actually is your opportunity to shape the future of ESG implementation in Asia. By sharing your experiences and engaging with peers, you will help build a more inclusive, practical, and impactful supply chain ecosystem. So, are you ready to lead the ESG? I will invite you to empower your ESG journey. You can join now. Okay, thank you, Mbak Tia. That's all what I can say about the module 3, and I come back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Budika, for the information. So that is the information about the module 2 and 3. And we hope that all the participants who are joining us today will also continue with us in the upcoming session. Next, about the introduction about the additional e-learning of the RBH network will be present by Natalie. So I would like to invite Natalie to provide the information about that. Natalie, please, time is yours.
Thank you, Tia. Good morning also from my side. I'm Nathalie Bethke. I work for GIZ, and we are very happy and excited to have this training series hosted by SCOPI with the Helpdesk today. Thanks again for the excellent organization. And before we dive into today's training, I would like to quickly introduce another e-learning, which could be a great add-on for you and a great introduction, for example, for your colleagues who couldn't attend today, maybe. It is developed by another GIZ shared project. It's called Network of Responsible Business Helpdesk, which also tries to raise awareness and improve local capacities for export readiness. The training is especially made for manufacturers and suppliers like you in producing countries, and is also about human rights and environmental due diligence. It is free of charge, it is self-paced, it's intersectoral, and it takes about 3 hours. It will be available in 9 languages. So apart from English, it is translated into Khmer already, but it will also be translated, for example, into Bangla and Vietnamese very soon. It provides a low barrier introduction to EU due diligence requirements and can therefore be seen as a recap for today's session for you, or you could just share it with your network as well. So it should serve as an addition to our training today and the next training modules. So I'll post the link in the chat if you have any more questions regarding this. I will also add the contact email. Yeah, that's it already from my side. Thank you, Tia. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Natalie, for the information. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we are moving into the main agenda of today's training, Module 1, Putting Human Rights Due Diligence into Practice. It is a pleasure to welcome today's expert speakers, Dr. Jana and Mr. David. And before we begin the presentation, please allow me to briefly introduce them. Okay, Dr. Jana is a business and human rights expert with over 12 years of experience working with companies, governments, NGOs, and unions around the world on a wide range of sustainability topics. And she holds a PhD in social science and is a trade moderator, facilitator, mentor, and university lecturer. And about Mr. David, he works as an advisor at the German Helpdesk on business and human rights, where he primarily assists companies in implementing environmental and climate-related due diligence process within their supply chains. He holds a background in biology and environmental sciences and has gained a professional experience in corporate environmental management and international development cooperation. So without any further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Jana and Mr. David to begin the presentation. So please, Dr. Jana and Mr. David, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Tia. Thank you very much also in the name of David, who's going to share his screen now. Thank you very much for this excellent organization. I'm seeing that almost 100 participants showed up, which is a great outcome. So thank you very much for your time. And we're going to make it as interactive as possible in this online setting, but we have around 1 hour now. So we have in the end, also enough time to address your individual questions, but we're going to start with a brief overview on the help desk on business and human rights. We're going to introduce our organizations, and then we're going to deep dive into putting human rights due diligence into practice. So next slide, please. So as Tia already said, we're going to give you all of the slides afterwards, so you don't have to take excessive notes. So you're gonna be provided with all of the materials. There are many tools that we also gonna present during the presentations. They're all linked in the PowerPoints, and you can just feel free to click on them and navigate yourself through the landscape of our tools. So this is on the agenda after a short welcome that we already have. We're going to give you a brief introduction to the topic of business and human rights, and we're going to present relevant legislation that is currently going on in Germany, but also on the European Union level. We then going to deep dive more into the effects on you, on the suppliers, maybe already actual suppliers or potential future supplies to the EU market. And the colleagues from SCOPI already mentioned it. Our ultimate goal, hopefully, is also to become the supplier of choice. And there are some opportunities and strategies for suppliers to the EU market to set up your own risk management system, to address the expectations, maybe also from European companies, and that we're going to introduce to you. And then we have a Q&A. Please feel free also during the first little exercises, and if you have like a burning question, please feel free to use the chat as well, to type your questions, and then we can maybe already address them during our presentation or in the end. Next slide, please. So just very brief, a few words about us. So the help desk on business and human rights is a free and confidential advisory service provided by the German government to support companies in implementing human rights due diligence. So we help businesses businesses of all sizes, first of all, very small one, but also to very large one, to understand and meet their responsibilities under international frameworks such as the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, as well as national and EU regulations. The helpdesk itself offers practical guidance, tools, and trainings tailored to specific sectors and supply chain challenges. So we're supporting companies overall in aligning profit with purpose, you can say. Next slide, please. Which is so there are all of our services. So the free of charge advice, we have a training program. We also have our own e-learning. So maybe you can also check this one. It's a more like introduction to business and human rights. It's self-paced as well. So you can do it online in your own speed. Yeah. So this is also very good. We offer it in English as well, Spanish, French, I think. But not as many languages as the colleagues from the GIZ, but we're working on that. So these are e-learning. We also have events, and we have different online services. So we already mentioned them here, but we're going to take a closer look at the tools later on. So we have the SME Compass, a practical online tool to human rights due diligence, very hands-on, step-by-step approach that will guide you, will take you by the hand to set up your own risk management system. We have the CSR Risk Check. It's an online tool for global risk assessment. It's available in English as well. And we have the Business and Human Rights Navigator. Business and Human Rights Navigator is a great tool for companies, because I saw it in the poll, that are already doing something and they may want to check, what other companies are doing. So it's kind of like a collection, real life, real world examples from companies all over the world, how they practically implement human rights due diligence. So please feel free. All of these tools are free of charge. Next slide, please. Exactly. Here's again like an overview on the tools. Please feel free to use them. If you're starting, I would recommend the SME Due Diligence Compass as well as the CSR Risk Check. If you're maybe more advanced, then you can also take a look at the Business and Human Rights Navigator. And if you feel like after this training, or maybe even after module 2 and 3, there's something I may want to do, like homework, deep dive a little bit more into the risk analysis, for example, go and check the online course. Next slide, please. Yeah, and with this, I can hand over to David, and we're going to do a little quiz with you.
Yes, thank you very much, Jana. And thank you so much to SCOPI for having us today. It's a great pleasure to speak in front of you. And yeah, I want to guide you now a little bit through the topic of business and human rights and due diligence. And in order to do so, I would like to take a little step back, because we already heard some, I would say, technical terms like business and human rights, due diligence, ESG, and some of you might not be familiar with those words yet. But it is an important topic. It becomes more and more important, as Ms. Ade Ariani correctly said in her introduction. So I would suggest let's just jump right into it. So what is business and human rights, first of all? Business and human rights is about the responsibility of companies to respect human rights in their operations and supply chains. Global supply chains, as many of us already know, involve human rights risk like, for example, labor rights violations, or risks like land related, like land grabbing, but also environmental risks like pollution of the environment or deforestation. Some of these impacts are directly or indirectly caused by businesses. That's why businesses play a key role in the prevention and also the remediation of those impacts. Yeah, and as Jana already said, we would like to start with a little exercise. Now I would like to invite all of you to use the chat function to share your thoughts on what human rights and maybe also environmental impacts do you think of when you are looking at these pictures? So just take some seconds to think about it. I would say this is like a typical work-related situation, but what risks and impacts could occur here? As I said, just use the chat function, share your thoughts, don't be afraid. Just like give a few more seconds. Maybe I can elaborate a little bit more on the situation. I mean, this would be, I would say, a more or less the typical setup for a job interview. Okay, I see answer coming in. Personal benefits when signing up for the position in the company. So it's a question whether you would consider that as really a threat or risk to a human right.
We have something diversity, discrimination. I think the people are picking up the idea. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think that goes in a good direction. Child labor, well, it could be maybe in a different kind of setup, and we will get there. But diversity in a company, I think this is a very good, this is actually a very good hint. So what we know from science, from surveys, is that discrimination based on gender or origin is actually an issue that can occur in a setting of a job interview. So very good. I'll go on to the next scenario. So what human rights risks could be related to this picture? Compensation of pension, I see. Corruption, I see, yes. Oh, I see living wage, minimum pay, very good. Salary, unfair wages, bribery, very good. Okay, there are a lot of ideas on that. I can see maybe I would also add withholding of wages, so not paying employees, and also, of course, social protection, very good. But of course, also equal payment between men and women, which is also burning issues. I mean, we're still in Germany, we still have a gender pay gap of, I think, nearly 20%. So this is also a quite big issue. So we go on to the next scenario. So what can you think of when you look at these pictures? Operational health and safety. Yes, very good. Workplace safety. I see there are a lot of thoughts and creativity in the room. Amazing. Labor safety, health and safety risks, chemical safety. I mean, some of those pictures also show the storage of some chemicals, and this, of course, also can have impact on certain human rights, like the right to health and life. which can also be particularly relevant for vulnerable groups, like if you think of pregnant women or maybe disabled people. Waste management. Okay, there are more answers coming in. Very good, but we have to go on, unfortunately. And this is the last picture I would like to show you. So I think this is a very sector-specific picture that shows a scene, like, or typical situation from the extractive industries, environmental issues. Deforestation, very good, very good. Yes. So especially the mining sector there's a strong link to deforestation and land degradation as well. Water pollution, and I would even add not only water pollution, but also soil pollution by heavy metals. And here I would even add that because it was mentioned before, the topic of child labor and also forced labor, from what we know, is very prevalent in the extractive sector. Of course, always depending also on the specific country context. But yes, this is also a big issue. Water scarcity, very good. Another problem also we're facing here in Germany. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and ideas. I would like to go on now a little bit with the question, how can we address those risks? I think all of us can agree that those risks are just there. And of course, depending on a specific sector, also countries, those risks can be higher or lower, but in general, they occur and they haven't been eradicated yet. So the question is, how can those human rights and also environmental risks be addressed? Luckily, there is a framework, and this framework is called UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, or the short version UNGP. The UNGP were already adopted by the international community in 2011, so almost 15 years ago. And the UNGP, they provide a global standard to address business-related human rights impacts in global supply chains. They rest on mainly on three pillars, which is the first pillar, the state's duty to protect human rights. The second pillar, the corporate responsibility. That's what we are here to talk about today, the corporate responsibility to respect human rights. And the provision of an access to remedy for potentially affected people like workers or also communities. The UNGP in its core set out a human rights, a so-called human rights due diligence process. So here we go, and this is the term that has been mentioned beforehand, the due diligence process for businesses. So what is a human rights due diligence process? According to a due diligence process, businesses are expected to identify and assess the adverse impacts of their activities first, and then taking action to prevent or remedy these impacts. They have to track the effectiveness of those actions and then communicate those measures externally, including to the public. So it's about taking action and also creating transparency about their activities. This entire process is guided by the consideration of the interest of potentially affected stakeholders, such as workers or local communities. So workers and local communities at any time of this process have to be involved and included. So companies actively have to reach out to those potentially affected stakeholders. So, and now I would like to get back to what Ms. Ariani said in the beginning, that in the recent years, there have been, we could see a global shift towards the regulatory formalization of due diligence. So there are more and more regulatory frameworks. The UNGP that I've just mentioned, this is a non-binding framework, so it cannot be considered as a law. But based on the UNGP, there have been regulatory frameworks. A range of legal framework has been introduced at both international and also national levels. And in this overview, don't worry, you don't have to keep this in mind, but I just compiled some examples of regulatory due diligence frameworks at both the EU level and in Germany. So in the top row, in the gray one, you will find the EU Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD. So the CSRD basically requires companies to disclose their sustainability performance across their entire supply chain. So it's about transparency. In the second row, the red one, there are two examples of mandatory due diligence frameworks. So first, the corporate, well, it's here on the right side, the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, the CSDDD at EU level, which is currently in the process of being adopted. And on the left side, the German Supply Chain Due Diligence Act, which was adopted in 2023, and it requires specifically large companies in Germany to establish a basic due diligence system. And finally, on the bottom row, here it's highlighted sector and commodity-specific regulations, such as, and I'm sure that many of you have heard about this already, the EU deforestation regulation. I'll come back to this more in detail later on in my presentation, so don't worry, I'll give some more details on that. I would like now to have a bit closer look at the German Supply Chain Due Diligence Act and what it entails. So the German Due Diligence Act requires company, so the short version of the abbreviation for this long name is, by the way, LKSG. So the LKSG requires companies to establish an effective risk management system, which means, as I mentioned beforehand, they have to identify and assess and address human rights and environmental risk in their business operations and across their supply chains. The risk management system is based on those core elements that are shown in this cycle here. So this is a bit more elaborate than the UNGP cycle, because we also have the strategy implementation, the risk analysis, preventive and remedial measures, the implementation of a complaints procedure for affected stakeholders, and also certain reporting requirements. On this slide, you can see some of the universal human rights that are protected under the German Supply Chain Act, as well as under the respective European laws, such as children's rights, freedom of association, living wages, adequate working conditions, health and safety, for instance, land rights, and also the right to life. There are also protected environmental goods under the due diligence frameworks, like, for instance, biodiversity, marine and terrestrial ecosystems like primary forest, tropical forest, water, air, and soil, and of course, also the climate. The German Supply Chain Act also entails specific environmental obligations that restrict the usage of certain toxic chemicals, such as persistent organic pollutants and also mercury. But this is more like a, let's say, like a sector-specific particularity. So I promised to you that I will also talk a little bit about the EU deforestation regulation, the EUDR. The new EUDR, which will come into force at the end of this year in the European Union, is a commodity-specific due diligence law, as I've just mentioned. So it's related to specific commodities. So what is it about? The EUDR requires EU-based companies to ensure that specific agricultural products may only be placed and made available on the EU market or be exported from the EU market if they are deforestation-free after a specific cutoff date, which is 30 December 2020. They have to be produced in accordance with the local legislation of the country of origin, and they have to provide a so-called due diligence statement a statement in which they declare that there is no or a negligible risk of non-compliance. So what are those relevant commodities? There are basically 7 that include palm oil, soy, wood, cocoa, coffee, cattle, natural rubber, and specific products derived from these commodities, such as, for instance, chocolate derived from cocoa beans. So, and this is basically the due diligence process under the EUDR, which includes data and information collection, so that serves as a proof for compliance, the assessment of potential risk of non-compliance, and if some risks are detected, the risk mitigation, so taking action on mitigating those risks. I will not go more into detail here, but just for you to see, there is also a basic due diligence process anchored in this EU deforestation regulation. So, and now the question, why do I familiarize you with these regulations that, as I already said, primarily apply to European and German companies? Why could this be relevant for you as a companies from Indonesia or other parts of Asia? The answer is it can become relevant for you if you plan to enter a business relationship with an EU partner and intend to export your products to the European market. And why that is, I will show on the following slides. So what could be potential effects on exporters from Asia, the effects of those legislation? The due diligence processes of all those regulations and frameworks that I've just showed to you require EU companies to work collaboratively with their suppliers. This means that EU buyers, they depend on their suppliers in order to fulfill their own due diligence obligations that they have under those specific laws and frameworks. So how is this reflected? Buyers may express their, first of all, they express their expectations regarding human rights and environment towards their suppliers. So these expectations are typically reflected in written agreements like a code of conduct. I'm sure some of you have already obtained such code of conduct with a request to sign it. Moreover, buyers can reach out to their suppliers and want to assess their ESG performance. So this is typically done by sending questionnaires, conduct audits, or do plausibility checks of specifically collected information on ESG. So, but also when taking action on specific risk, environmental and human rights related risk, EU buyers may want to collaborate with their suppliers to find the best possible solution. This is actually also a basic concept of those laws that, well, it's what I call the collaborative approach. So they may reach out to their suppliers to develop jointly a good solution to address specific human and environmental violations. So there might be even some more specific information demands from EU buyers. For example, the EUDR, the EU deforestation regulation requires EU companies to provide specific data for relevant commodities, such as I said, coffee or palm oil, which prove that these commodities were produced deforestation-free and in accordance with the national legislation of the country of origin. The required information, they can include, for instance, geolocation data. I mean, in the case of EUDR, they will include geolocation data because it's really a hard criteria for them. And those geolocation data, they cover the plot of land of primary production. But they may also ask about certificates, certain specific environmental permits, or forest management plans. So some of those requirements are listed here in this on this slide. I will not mention all of them, but as Jana already said, the slides will be shared with you, so you can, after this event, you can also take another look on this. So yeah, as you can see, the different EU legislation covering corporate due diligence, they may have an impact on you as suppliers to the EU market, but here's the important message for you. And this is also personally for me very important to clarify. There are no direct obligations for companies that are located outside of the European Union. So outside of the European Union, companies, they are not subject to any EU legislation. So that means there are also no penalties. So non-EU companies cannot be penalized under any of these EU legislation. EU companies are required by law to assist, especially smaller suppliers, for example, through capacity building. So I want to encourage you not to hesitate to ask your EU business partner for support when you face some difficulties to address specific risks, for instance. But luckily, there's also support from the European Union. The EU promotes implementation of due diligence process in specific partner countries via technical assistance and investment. So this is mainly also supported by GIZ. So I'm sure you can also reach out to the colleagues of GIZ here. So if there are no legal obligations for you, why should you deal with those topics anyway? Besides the before mentioned aspects, there are some good reasons actually to engage more deeply with those issues. And with that, I'll pass it over to you, Jana, again, because you will give us some more valuable insights on that.
Thank you very much, David. Exactly. Now we're going to move on to the opportunities for suppliers to the EU market, and then also continue with how to set up your own risk management system and your own measures and your own complaint system. Because I already saw a question in the chat, a very important one, because we were asked, so the person sourced most of our raw materials from smallholder coconut farmers. What will be a recommended approach for us to meet human rights due diligence requirements? David just clarified that, so you don't have like direct requirements, but maybe expectations, while maintaining a good and fair relationship with these small farmers. And I think that's a really important point that you mentioned. You should not shift the responsibilities to the next person in line, but you have to work jointly together. And how you can do it, we're going to show you now in the next slides. So next slides, please. So as David already mentioned during his presentation, the recent international and regional regulations, so such as the EU Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, the CSEEE, but also the German Supply Chain Act or other local regional acts like the French Duty of Vigilance law, they are raising the bar for corporate responsibility. And these laws require companies in the EU to actively identify, prevent, and address human rights and environmental risks throughout their entire supply chain. And there you guys come in place. So start preparing today, like we also heard from SCOPI, to meet these expectations. So being proactive will help you to stay ahead of the curve and avoid future disruption. So as a non-EU supplier, again, to repeat, you do not have to meet any EU obligations. So why should you do it now? So why should you stay ahead and care about the whole subject? Because there are some opportunities and it is the right thing to do. And we have listed just a few bullets. So the first one is access to global markets. So many international buyers require now due diligence compliance, at least now some kind of expectations, and meeting these standards or expectations, of course, opens doors to larger markets and to more companies. As stronger business relationships. So companies do prefer suppliers who proactively address risks and make them more reliable and long-term partners. Reduced legal and financial risks. So compliance with due diligence regulations minimize the risk of fines, penalties, and reputational damage. And then probably the most important one, the enhanced reputation and the competitiveness. So demonstrating commitment to responsible business practices improves your brand image, and you can serve and it can serve as a competitive advantage. The increased investment opportunities, so also investors. It's not only companies, but also investors and financial institutions favor businesses that manage risks and comply with sustainability and human rights standards. And last but not least, better crisis management. So due diligence helps you to anticipate and mitigate potential disruptions in your supply chain, ensuring business continuity. So I hope you're convinced, because right now during the next like 15 minutes, we have prepared some steps for you to prepare for any potential requests from your buyers and to get started with your own due diligence process. Next slide, please. After all, maybe that's also an important message that we want to address here from the help desk. So human rights due diligence is not a rocket science. It's manageable, it's doable. And most of the companies already doing a lot, but they're just not looking at these topics through the lenses of human rights due diligence, but they're already doing a lot. So first of all is, of course, to understand your buyer's due diligence obligation. That is also like what we're doing today. So it's always good to know, okay, so what are the key points of the regulation in Germany or other countries? What do these companies have to do, and how and where do they need my help? Then, of course, in the beginning, familiarize yourself with the risks in your own supply chain. So it will be easier to effectively collaborate also with your buyers. It's always good to assign contact points for customer requests when you prepare for these kind of surveys, maybe audits, maybe they ask you for a specific certification, a label, a standard. So it's always good to assign contact points for customer requests and prepare for information requests. And then at the heart of every risk management system is, of course, to understand and name your environmental and social risks in your own operations and in your supply chains. Typically, the current regulation and also the upcoming regulations are no tier 1 regulations. So German companies, for example, are going to be asked to track down also parts of their supply chain. And again, they need to understand where are my main risks in my supply chain. For that, they need transparency. And for that, they need the collaboration with their suppliers. And this is also the point where you can probably help them the most. Of course, it's always depends on the company and on your market and the size of your company, but creating your own code of conduct, which I know is also part of module 2, is a good idea, to also fix your rules, your procedures, and what do you also expect from your business partners. David already mentioned it. Ask your buyers for help where needed. So again, you do not have to do it alone by yourself. You can always join forces with other companies in your sector. And I think probably SCOPI is already a very good example of that, that you can achieve more. And the peer learning effect is really, it's there. We can see it as well through our formats. So this is also something you can always keep in mind. You do not have to do it by yourself. You can join forces with other companies. And of course, you can always ask your buyers for help. Next slide, please. So now we're going to deep dive into how to set up your own basic due diligence system. Again, step by step, it's about progress, not perfection. You have time to set up a risk analysis and to perform the risk analysis and to find the prioritized risks, to set up measures. So it's not something that you can do easily on the Monday afternoon and then you're done. It's more like a continuous improvement path when it comes to human rights due diligence. Next slide, please. So what is the risk analysis? I think we can just click this. This is animated, but the risk analysis, like I said, it's at the core of every human rights due diligence process. From there, this is your first starting point. And you will always continuously perform a risk analysis. So it's a process by which a company identifies, evaluates human rights and environmental risk. Think about the quiz that we did, where you can see the whole portfolio starts with your own company, but also towards your supply chain, connected with your activities and business relationship. Important, do not stop at your own company. That's also what we always like preach to the German and European companies. So it's your own operations, but also your supply chain. And the evaluation is based on severity and likelihood. Always keep in mind the most severe risks will be tackled first, and then step by step you go to the less severe human rights risks. There is a prioritization of identified risk as possible. So we do not know, David and I, we do not know any company in the world who doesn't have any kind of human rights risks. So you can have risks. That's completely normal. And you shouldn't be afraid of finding these risks and taking a closer look at these risks because you can prioritize. You do not have to tackle them all at once, yeah, and within 1 week. So you have time starting with the most severe and then step by step to the less severe. Next slide, please. We love to use, or maybe one important thing before we start, like how do you actually do a risk analysis? Risk analysis, when you talk to people from companies, they're always like, oh yeah, I know. So it's about my reputational risk or about market access or about liquidity or about money. So this is this old focus or the classical compliance focus where the company is in the center of attention. But when we take a look at human rights and environmental risks, and also with the new regulation, it's not about the company, it's about the people. Yeah? It's about focus on the most vulnerable groups. So you always ask yourself, what are the effects of the company, what you are doing, on the surroundings, on the environment and the people. And you put people at the center of the risk analysis. So it's inside out versus outside in. Yeah. So our main focus are the people and the human rights of the people that might be affected throughout the company's activities. Next slide, please. So as you can see, it's always getting like easier. So we start with a very broad eagle view, helicopter view, however you want to call it. So you take a look at all of your products on your country level. So where do you produce? How's your company set up? What kind of products you produce? Or like the question. So you're working with small what is it called? Smallholder coconut farmers. So where are the smallholder coconut farmers located in which region? Also, first step is always to get a broad overview. You use indices for that. You can use our risk check. Actually, it's going to be on the next slide. I'm going to show you this. So normally you just type in, yeah, exactly, there it is. So you can see you can select a product or a service and you can select the country of origin, and then you get like some sort of like a first step approach, first kind of sense of what are your risks. And then you double check that normally, maybe do a workshop with your HR people, with the procurement people, with the management circle. So you have like a good overview of your abstract risks. Next slide, please. Abstract risks doesn't mean, oh no, sorry, the one slide back to the funnel, because only if you have, abstract risks do not necessarily have to be concrete risks. Only if there's an abstract risk of maybe smallholder coconut farmers, it doesn't mean that your smallholder coconut farmers are violating human rights. So it's always important, abstract risk, and then you break it down to the concrete risk. And then you analyze really your supply chain, you talk to your suppliers, to your own people in your company, you use internal knowledge from different departments, you use internal documents from audits, assessment, external tools, ratings. This is also the point where companies usually perform audits with their suppliers or send out questionnaires. Maybe you have already invited to some kind of like tools, maybe like EcoVadis or I don't know, Pre-Wave. There are so many tools out there. Just to name two, where you can type in or you have to answer some questionnaires. This is usually the part of the concrete risk analysis. Again, you should not be afraid of risks. Completely normal to have them. It's also completely normal to find something in your supply chain. Just to make sure, as Raghi said in the UN principles, it's about knowing and showing what risks you have. So knowing, you do the risk analysis, you work with indices, you work with internal documents, and showing is also towards your clients. These are my risks and I'm going to tackle them ideally with you together. Next slide was the CSR risk check. Again, you can find the link in the slides. I think for me, this is one of my favorite tools that we offer because it's super straightforward. It's easy to use. It gives you a very, very well-researched PDF about your main risks that you can also use to, for example, formulate your own human rights policy. It's something that you are able to give your clients maybe an answer when they ask you, so what are your main risks? And so I think it's a really great tool. You can use it in German and English, David, right? So we don't have more languages, but English, I think for sure.
I
English for
think it
sure.
will be also available in Spanish and French, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it has been already launched, but yeah.
Okay, so see, there are also more languages available. Next slide. Because we do not have so much time today, but I know that module 2 and maybe also in module 3, you can also talk more about these topics. So how do I really identify risk? How do I also prioritize risk? When you have many risks, you have to start somewhere. And for that, you need like a good approach. Also, please feel free to use the SME due diligence compass from our website. Again, it's linked here in the slides, and it's really a step-by-step approach, like someone takes you by the hand and shows you how to set up a risk management system. And under 2, you have perform a risk analysis, but also take action, measure and report, and manage complaints, because this is also 2 topics that we're going to touch upon today very briefly. But if you want like a deep dive, also please feel free to take a look. Next slide, please. And of course, again, here's the online course. If you want to get a free activation code, you can write us an email. You can have you see the email address here, or use David and mine email address at the end of the slide, so we can provide you with a free activation code. I think there are up to 5 activation codes per company. So please feel free to also use this, and you can also forward maybe to co-workers, colleagues who were not able to join today. So you can also have like a close follow-up on these topics. Next slide, please. Yes. So now, don't worry, there's a lot of like bullets now on the slides, a lot of like minimize risk and take preventive measures. So these are just a first collection of possible measures that you can do, because there was like a question, how do we actually, for example, work with farmers on the ground, so within your own operation, and maybe also towards direct suppliers or also towards indirect suppliers, probably depending on your size. The first 2 columns are the most interesting one. So what you can actually do within your own company, but also how you can work, for example, with the farmers that provide you with coconuts. The thing is, what I would recommend is always to do your homework in the sense of check what is already there in your company, because normally you do not start from zero. You have an HR team, you have maybe anti-discrimination policies, you have health and safety training, you already have a good and fair relationship, for example, with these small farmers. You may have a code of conduct, you have contracts in general. You maybe talk to the people. Yeah, it is as basic as this, where you can also address, so like a structured dialogue with your farmers, for example, is also a tool that you can use to transport your message that these topics are important for you. Training is one example. So for example, if you see maybe on the farms, they're not using the health and safety equipment, maybe like a protection, if they use like something to spray on the fruits or anything, they do not use it correctly. It's always hanging like here, or maybe some of the workers, there are not enough masks or boots, or I don't know, sun protection. Think about the heat waves. Now, then you can also do like a health and safety training, for example, or you can provide the farmers with good equipment. So they're like always depending on the specific case and on the specific risk, you have a different set of measures. Yeah. So you can also check and see what kind of like measures would be good for you. Yeah. So next slide, please. Yes. So, or maybe, sorry, maybe one step back, because I saw just with one eye that there are a lot of questions on certifications, and we always get these questions. Certifications are indeed also one measure. that you can take in order to show, knowing and showing that you follow certain rules, that you have set up a process. For example, ISO 14000 is usually one thing that also European clients may ask you. The thing is, there's not one certification to comply with all of these EU supply chain laws. I wish, yeah, but that would be like a certificate that probably it's in reality it won't work. But they are certain standards and tools and certifications like ISO, also standards for your products. We also have a tool on standards. Yeah, this is also something you can check out. So yes, standards are one piece of the puzzle, I would say. There is not one certification scheme or anything where you can, just have it all. But it's a good thing also to discuss that with your European clients and check beforehand maybe what are kind of like typical, maybe already well-used certifications, and what are certifications you are asked to have. For example, I know that a lot of questionnaires ask about the ISO certification. So there are, yes, certification schemes are important, but there's not like one single bullet solution. Okay, that's I wanted to address that. Complaints procedures, exactly. Last step. So just that you heard it maybe. Now, European clients are obliged by the law to set up their own complaints procedure, like a grievance, like different multiple channels where workers can address issues, for example, challenges, or even negative human rights impacts. And of course, they do not only want to have this in their own company, they also want to maybe roll it out within their supply chain. So you may be asked to also make their complaints procedure transparent and open for your own employees. Or you can set up your own complaints procedure, which is in general a good idea. And you name it, what kind of channel it could be. It could be a phone number, it could be a WhatsApp chat, so an SMS. It could be a box in the production hall where you can, manually put paper in. It can be a person, an ombudsperson, for example, a very trustful person where workers can address their issues. So just think about channels where workers can raise their concerns, because it's always good to improve your own business as well. And you can show your client again that you're open for this and that you're working on the complaints. And you can identify risks also before they really, turn into something really bad. You see like the false concerns, maybe about, for example, health and safety. Someone is saying, I don't think that this is like a good enough protection, for example. It's better to know it at this stage than before an accident happens. So it's always good to have this in mind. Next slide, please. Yeah, maybe just a brief summary. And then I see there are also many questions in the chat. I think, David, you're probably already tracking them. And so maybe we can take some of these questions in the Q&A, maybe just a summary now. So, of course, like what we said, especially in David's part, so the new legal obligations, yeah, so and the increased requirements. I think it's good to get ready now, because, well, like I said, the current international and regional regulations, like the EU supply chain law, which will come into force during the next year, they are raising the bar for corporate responsibility. And these laws require companies to really actively identify and prevent and address human rights risks throughout their entire supply chain. And so start preparing today. I think this is probably the best recommendation to meet these expectations. And being proactive is, always better than to fall behind, and then you will be rolled over with requirements that you cannot fulfill. So stay ahead of the curve to avoid also future disruptions. So companies, and with big letters, capital letters, and their suppliers play a key role in the successful implementation. Due diligence does not stop at companies' borders. Suppliers are essential partners in ensuring respect for human rights and environmental standards. So your actions directly influence your client's ability to meet legal and ethical requirements in Europe. And this brings you actually into a very important and good position. So engage in an open dialogue, demonstrate transparency, and show your commitment to continuous improvement. Again, you do not have to be perfect from the start. Not even a German company that falls under the Supply Chain Act is probably perfect, but show continuous improvement, because this, in our experience, builds trust and long-term business relationship. And that's probably what every business wants. So recognize also your opportunities to become the supplier of choice, a term that we heard a few times already. So embedding responsible business practices is it's not just about compliance. Yeah, it's a business opportunity for you as well. So buyers increasingly prefer suppliers who understand and manage their human rights and environmental risks. So by positioning yourself as a responsible and reliable partner, you can increase actually your chances of securing new contracts, entering international markets, and building long-term partnership. The good thing is, again, it's not rocket science, and help is out there. So use tools and support services, and approach also your local AHK is our abbreviation, but it's the local chamber of commerce abroad. Yeah. So you don't have to navigate these changes alone. There are many practical tools, guidance documents, excellent networks, like today, to support services to help you implement your diligence in a manageable way. So contact your local partners or similar institutions for tailored support. The GIZ colleagues are with their responsible business hubs, training opportunities, and access to networks that can help you build your capacity and also visibility. Yeah. Next slide, please. I think this is it from our input side. So hand over to David.
Thank you very much, Jana. Yeah, maybe just before we start the Q&A session, just a little hint. So where can you find us? The Helpdesk, German Helpdesk on business and human rights. So we are on LinkedIn. So if you like to follow current development, I have to say that, I mean, our basically support service is mainly for companies based in Germany, so that there are not any false expectations. So that's also the side we know best. So we talk a lot to German companies or companies based in Germany in general. And I saw that there are also some questions about the situation of local companies. I think the colleagues of GIZ are more the experts on that, and of course also SCOPI specifically for the coffee sector. I mean, I would say I would refer you also to the colleagues of SCOPI. But yeah, still could be interesting for you if you would like to get a little, like track what's happening on a EU level and in Germany. Then of course we warmly invite you to follow us on LinkedIn. And here are our contact data if you like to reach out to us after the webinar. But yeah, you will obtain the slides, and there you can then look up our contact details.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Jana, please.
Yeah, maybe one thing, because I feel the pain in the chat that it was a lot what we presented, and we completely agree. It is a lot, especially now because we only have 2 hours. But always keep in mind you have module 2 and module 3. This was just the kickstart. You will deep dive and understand the concept of the risk analysis and everything much better if you run through module 2 and 3. And I also want to highlight a very good example from the chat from Daisy that supports honey sweet potato farmers. And I mean, through training, fair pricing, sustainable farming practices. Exactly already the measures that we probably would also, encourage you to do. So you see, you're already doing a lot. Yeah, and you're already addressing exactly how we would like to see it addressed. And especially the pricing, of course, and your sustainable procurement strategies are one part that you can use. Yeah. So in this case, I would recommend write it down. Yeah, write it down. make like a little list what you're already doing, so you're ready for these information requests and ready to position yourself. Maybe put it in a human rights policy or something. Yeah. So the clients from the European market is like one view. It's like, oh wow, they're already doing a lot. Yeah. But there are more questions on EUDR. So David, please go ahead.
So I'm not entirely sure how to proceed. Will I hand over to you, Tia, for the
Yeah.
Q&A? Yeah, okay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Jana and Mr. David, for the insightful and interactive presentation. And we already have received a lot of questions in the chat box, and maybe we will move on to the next session, the Q&A session. And this session will be led by the moderator, Natalie. So yeah, Natalie, I would like to invite you again to lead the session, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Tia, and thank you again, Jana and David, for this great overview. I think also it's a lot when you hear it first, but the session is also recorded, and everybody will get the presentation afterwards. So I think it helps when you let it sink in. Now we're getting to the questions. Thanks already for so many questions in the chat, and you already answered some. Before we head over to all the EUDR questions, I think it might make sense to answer the other ones that not refer to the EUDR. There's one question regarding from Zulkarnain. He asked, we source most of our raw materials from smallholder coconut farmers. What would be your recommended approach for us to meet human rights and environmental due diligence requirements under EU German regulations while maintaining a good and fair relationship with these small farmers?
Yeah, I think we already addressed this question during the presentation, but maybe just to summarize, I mean, I would probably also start with a basic risk analysis just to see, are there risks associated with coconut farming in this specific region? Who could be vulnerable groups? Are there vulnerable groups, for example, children, women, migrant workers, seasonal workers? So this would be like, for example, my first approach to check, okay, who are the most vulnerable groups? What are the risks associated? And then I would probably get in direct contact with them, set up a structured dialogue, share these thoughts also with them. Again, it's not about passing down the responsibility to the next one, but to rather engage in an open dialogue and then to see what are the farmers already doing. Do we actually have concrete risks? Do we, for example, pay fair prices for the coconuts, so the farmers are also able to pay a good salary to their employees, and so on and so forth. So I would check probably what are the main risks, vulnerable groups. Then I would check like how do I work with them, my own procurement strategies, the money, the how much I pay for the products, and then I would start a direct dialogue. But I think it's very good, again, what you mentioned is like a good and fair relationship with these small farmers. Yeah. David, would you like to add something?
Oh, sorry.
No.
Okay. Thanks again, Jana, for guiding us through the steps again. Then we have another question regarding child labor. We have the question, in EU they said it's child labor, but in development countries they say the children help their parents to survive for their life. How we address this? I think that's a more difficult one to answer, maybe. Tipping a complex topic.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, I can start, and David, please feel free to jump in. Exactly. It's a very complex, and it's not a binary coded question. So it's not a black and white question. What I would like to highlight is, of course, there is also, for example, a difference between child labor when, for example, children work in mines in Congo under horrible conditions, or if it's children working maybe 1 hour on a local farm to help their parents. So there's kind of like a range of child labor, and I think it depends on the individual case. And that's something I would like to highlight. And also if the ability to, for example, get education is hindered through the working process. When do these kids work? And again, it's a structural problem, child labor, that it's not easily fixed with just saying we forbid children to work, because normally children work because the family income is so low that they need to contribute money for the family. So I think it's not an easy topic that you can easily solve, but I think we have to work on the structural root causes for child labor, and this is poverty. And I think these needs to be addressed first. David.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only support what Jana said. It is a structural problem, and I think we have to be crystal clear about it. This is not something that can be solved by companies on their own. So that's why actually the UNGP also foresee the state responsibility to protect human rights. But the business and human rights approach, the corporate due diligence approach is about companies assessing what they can do to with their capacities and their resources in the scope of their responsibility to address this issue. And of course, if you have a child working on a plantation, sending the child away from the plantation, this is not going to solve the problem. If we have a structural problem here, and I think you said it very well in your question already, the children help their parents to survive for their life. So we have to look at the root causes of child labor, and one of those root causes is, from what we know, extreme poverty and an income that is not enough to cover the cost of living. And so this could be actually a potential starting point where we would also recommend to engage in a dialogue with your business partner, with your EU customer, because what I can tell you in Europe and Germany, there's high awareness for this topic of child labor. So also here, don't hesitate to engage in a dialogue with your business partner.
Great. Thank you very much for your answers. We have one more question, not regarding the EUDR, and it's about more EU support promoting the implementation, both technical and financial assistance, where can be more information be gathered from. And I think I can partly answer that. I can send 2 links into the chat. One is also from the Responsible Business Helpdesk Network, which also hosts this e-learning that I just mentioned in the beginning. And they especially target suppliers in developing markets. So they might be a good address for you also regarding new tools that might come up within the next month, since the CSDD is not in place yet. So there's a lot of movement still, so you can just follow up on these first, and maybe we can send more links with the email that comes afterwards, the follow-up email. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any more questions. But as David said, I think SCOPI is also your best direct contact for that. I think they're quite well informed and so well organized and so super helpful for everyone. So I think we can move to the EUDR questions. The first one.
Natalie,
sorry
to interrupt, because I also have one advice that could be interesting here.
Sorry.
And it's actually, yeah, no worries. And it's actually, I think, a program implemented even by GIZ, by your colleagues. There is actually a fund which is called a due diligence fund. It's implemented by the Sustainable Agriculture Supply Chains Initiative, DALI. And from what I know, this fund is specifically targeting businesses from partner countries who have already teamed up with a European partner to jointly work on due diligence, improving due diligence. I will post a link to the due diligence fund here in the chat. You can check it out, but I think this could, for some of you, be maybe an interesting opportunity.
Thank you so much, David. Great advice. Yeah, that's great. Please check it out. Then we can go to the EUDR questions. The first one I have is, based on EUDR requirements, is there a minimum land size requirement for geoplotted agricultural areas, or is it that land under 1 hectare only requires a single coordinate? Do you know that? That's a very technical, specific question.
Is there a question here on the slide? Sorry, I want to just reread it.
Sorry, I can post it in the chat. I found it in the chat.
Yeah,
I think
please.
it's not on the slide.
So yeah, from what I know, actually, there's not such a thing as a minimum land size. So the geolocation data that has to be that the EU buyer, I mean, of course, we're only talking about relevant supply chains for the 7 commodities. Well, as long as the EU buyer imports a relevant commodity such as coffee, they will ask about the land plot of production. Even if it's less than 1 hectare, I think this doesn't matter. So yeah, so the answer is also basically land plots less than 1 hectare size would be considered here.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Then we just go down the questions now, not to avoid confusion. Joshua Sinaga asked, to what extent can a human rights approach distinguish between formal compliance and substantive responsibility in the implementation of the EUDR by coffee sector actors?
Maybe I can start, and Jana, you can add. Well, so, I hope I understood the question correctly. So the general human rights due diligence process, as set out in the UNGP that we have just introduced, this is like the general framework, which is in any case a good preparation to, you know, as Jana said, become the supplier of choice, and also to support EU buyers to fulfill their own due diligence obligations. So the question is now a little bit, does this general due diligence approach cover all legal and compliance requirements? I would say the question is no, because depending on the specific law, there might be some more details that have to be considered that are not set out in the UNGP, but there are requirements under the EUDR. For example, those very specific information demands. So you will not find anything about geodata in the UNGP. So this is a specific EUDR requirement. So yeah, my answer would be it's really good to prepare yourself and also get awareness of this general approach. But when it comes to specific requirements, we highly recommend to, again, enter a dialogue with your customer and ask, what do they need? What exactly do they need?
Okay, perfect. And then following up on that, do you already have an idea what might be the most critical gaps here for suppliers? About the next question.
Well, with respect to EUDR, I would say so the part where the suppliers from partner countries are most needed is obviously the provision of data. And before you can provide data, you need to collect them. So this whole technical process of collecting the data, gathering the data, this, from what we know and from what we hear also from the German companies, is quite challenging at the moment because, again, the EUDR is not in force yet. So it will start at the end of the year. So all the companies are still in the process of preparation. And yeah, so this technical data collection really turns out to be a challenge and sometimes even requires some technical equipment. And also here, same rule applies. If you think that you cannot, you don't have the capacities to invest, for example, in technical equipment, in GPS devices, for instance, also again reach out to your partner. Or also check out opportunities, for instance, under the due diligence fund that I have just shared with you.
Okay. Jana, you have something to add? No. Oh, sorry. Okay, thanks. Thanks, David, for this answer. Then we have one more question from Yusran. Is it a global map or national map that the EU will be using as a standard for geospatial to the requirements? Will be the standard for sorry.
Yeah, so the answer is no. There is not a specific tool, or I mean, if the question is about tools, then the answer is no. So in theory, you could use Google Maps in order to get the geodata, but is actually a requirement when it comes to the format of the data. So this needs to be GeoJSON. GeoJSON is the required format to collect and submit those data. Why is it GeoJSON? GeoJSON because the European buyers, I don't know if you remember, but they have to submit a due diligence statement, and in this statement, it's uploaded on a information system website, and they can only insert the GeoJSON data. So that's why GeoJSON is the format, but about the tool and software, there are no requirements.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Then we had one more question by Agam, but I think Jana already answered that about certification and ISO 14000. So we still have a few minutes left, and I would invite everyone to raise their hand who still have a question and maybe ask them here just in the room. If you have anything more you would like to ask Jana and David, go ahead and raise your hands. Don't be shy. You can also post something, a question in the chat if you don't feel like talking or if you can't talk. Okay. If we don't receive another question within the next minute, I think I can also hand over back to Tia, if Jana and David, if you don't want to say something more. And thank you so much for answering all the questions, even though some of them were really tough. So for you, and thanks for joining us today and for your time, for explaining everything so well. Thank you. Back to Tia.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Jana, Mr. David, and our moderator, Natalie, and of course, all the participants for a very insightful discussion and very active participants. Thank you for that. And before we close today's session, we would like to invite you to participate in a final short polling. And will help us better understand your experience and takeaways from Module 1. So the polling will appear on your screen shortly, and please take a moment to respond it. Okay. Maybe we will wait for about 2 minutes. There are 4 questions, a very quick question. So please kindly fill the answer. Okay, thank you everyone who has responded. Maybe let me share a brief summary about the answer. Okay, question number 1. How useful was the information presented in this Module 1 session for your work? And mostly, 59% of participants answered that the Module 1 session was very useful. And next question, after this session, how confident do you feel about explaining the key steps of HRDD to your team? And the most participants answer mostly somewhat confident. It's about 51%. The next question, which part of due diligence process discussed today seems most urgent for your company to address? And mostly answer about conducting a formal risk assessment. And the last question, from what you've learned today, what do you foresee as the biggest challenge to implementing due diligence in your company? And mostly the participants answer difficulty in identifying risk across the supply chain. Okay, thank you very much everyone who has respond to the polling. Okay. Yeah, before we officially close today's session, we would like to invite everyone to join us for a group photo, and we kindly ask all the participants to turn on the camera for a moment so we can capture this great moment together. And if possible, please use the virtual background that we have sent to you. Okay, maybe we will wait. Okay, there are 4 slides of participants for the group photo, and we will taking a screenshot of each slide. Since we're not sure which slide you're on, we kindly ask everyone to keep smiling throughout the process. And yeah, please give us your best smiles. Maybe I will count down for slide 1. 1, 2, 3. Okay, slide 2, 1, 2, 3. Slide 3, 1, 2, 3. And the last slide, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much for your smiles and energy. And if you found today's session valuable and interested in continuing with Module 2 and 3, we kindly invite you to fill out the registration form again to confirm your participation. And we truly hope to see many of you again in the upcoming sessions. And finally, before you leave, please take a moment to fill out our feedback survey, and the link is available on your screen and also in the chat box. And also don't forget to fill out the participant list if you have not filled it yet. And your feedback help us improve our future session, and by completing the survey, you will also receive a copy of today's presentation materials and the recording of this session. Okay, as we come to the end of today's session, the first module of the Navigating EU Supply Chain Law training series with the topic Putting Human Rights Due Diligence into Practice. On behalf of the organizer, I would like to say thank you very much once again to our speaker, Dr. Jana and Mr. David, and our moderator, Natalie, and of course, all of you, our participants, for your active participants and the great energy. We truly appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you soon again in the Module 2, which be held online on September 2025. And lastly, we apologize if there were any mistakes or any uncomfortable during today's session. Until then, thank you once again and see you in September. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Tia. Thank you, David. Thank you, Jana,
Thank
for
you,
the
David.
presentation. Natalie,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Natalie.
the great organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Tia. Thank you, Ade.
We'll
Thank
see
you,
you in September
Natalie.
or before that. Thank you, all the participants.
Thanks for the questions.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.